let's get into this. Welcome in everyone. I know it's kind of a little bit early, and Josh isn't here, so I know it's a bit out of the timetable. But in saying that, it's good to be here. I just wanted to get to some questions, bit of Q&A for anyone that's out there. If not, I'll just share my ideas, get some thoughts out of my head right now about the rest of the season, even before it kind of drops. Like the next game, we haven't even got the team list yet. So I've just been thinking about things, and I suppose pondering where we're at the season. It's kind of weird having a week off of footy. It's almost like um, we've missed. Yeah, we've missed. I've missed footy, but at the same time, kind of had some time to reflect on where we're at as a club. And to be fair, I'm kind of a little bit doubtful at this moment. Um, Probably staying where we're at and thinking it's going to be a bit of a tough carry, I suppose, to go forward. But in saying that, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that things will pick up. But to get say 6 out of 7 games, um, yeah, man. Hope you guys are well. Hey, my man, Mo, you got shortly. All good, my brother. No worries, no worries. I'm just jumping on. Look, I just want to get an early one in. I wanted to just sort of get something out before it's too late. I got a bit of free time. Josh couldn't jump in tonight, so I just thought I'd just jump on. But all good, brother. It's no problem. And tonight might not be heaps of people on. But in saying that, I'll just share some of my thoughts and you guys might just listen in. But feel free if you want to, if you have a question, chuck it in. I'll try and answer it. Just because I'm rolling solo, it might be a bit more time to really dissect, um, some of those things for you. Shout out Mo. It's good to hear from you, brother. Yeah. So for me, I just feel it's really tough coming in at this point in the season. I just can't see us making the 8 based on the criteria that it's going to be. You know, yeah, to get 8, 7, or 6 out of 7 wins. For me, the big one is if we can get this Canberra game. If we can get this Canberra game and it's solid, it's a good win. I think that will build the momentum going into the end of the season. For me, you have to really make sure that that you can pretty much win this game against Canberra, and that will set up should be a roll on. Now, for me, if we lose this game against Canberra, I feel as though it's kind of like, okay, you're going to start really focusing in on blooding some new guys in. You're going to focus on, bringing the young guys up, resting the older guys. Like, I probably doubt that Sean and Tohu come back this season based on it being a 7-game window. And then by the time if you lose the Canberra game at 6 games, you probably want to say, "Oh, I want to make the most of that by going and focusing on the juniors and bringing them up, the couple boys, the ones that you feel like the Leka Halasimas, Zion Mo's, the Sifa Coolers, giving them an opportunity." But say if you do go on and win this first game, I feel you got 2. I think you got a game against the Tigers and the Eels after that. 2 teams that aren't going the greatest, but no NRL game is easy. Let's be honest. But if you can get that first one against Canberra and get on a roll, and you can go 3 straight, there's something in that. I think there's some value in that. But again, for me, it'll be determined on can we get to that number. Can we get 3 on the trot? For me, it's like you can't lose this first one, then go and win 3. You have to win these first 3 for some reason. Just in my head, you have to nail these first 3. So that's my thought process around it. But just weird not having footy this week. And I suppose a loss from the Bulldogs has kind of made me a little bit down in a weird way. That I'm really interested to see how we pick up against this Canberra game. In a weird way, we can't afford to play in a tight game. I just don't think, we need to be able to kind of get some games where we're winning by 8 points, that type of thing. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm pumped. This is the last stand, should we say, before the end of the season. Like, this is your opportunity. Where we're sitting on the ladder, I think we're kind of around 10th. Let me just bring up the ladder quickly. Let me just check that ladder. So we're 12th, right? And some of the teams below us and above us have only played 16 games, and we've played 17. So they've got a game in hand, which is weird because they've had 3 buys at the same time. So it's hard to read, I understand it, but I just feel as though we're kind of in a real tough spot. Hopefully, the big one here, the Raiders, they're just above us in 11th. So if you beat the Raiders, you go to 21 points. And then that means that they've played 17 games and they had 7. There'll be a record of 7-10. But if you lose to the Raiders, they go to 22 points, and the gap just starts to get too big there. So, hey, welcome in, guys. Yeah. Mo, yes, we 3 points out of the 8 and have 1 more bye, right? Yeah, but it's weird. The other teams have an extra game. It's because it's confusing because we've played 17, but we've had 2 buys. Some teams have played 16 games and had their 3. So I suppose we still have the extra points in the bag, but they have played 1 less game than us. So I'm just looking at the table now. The Raiders, Titans, the one they're on a tear right now. I mean, they could continue going on a run. It's the Raiders, Titans that are on the 16 games. They've both had their 3 buys. So, but again, you kind of want to get them to 17 games and see where they're at. And then you got Bulldogs and Dolphins, who've had 3 buys and played 16 games. So anyone that's played 16 games has had 3 buys, I think. So yeah, we're still outside, but hopefully we can. Yeah. Hey, Dylan, welcome in, my man. Yeah, welcome in, Jacko as well. And still chilling. Thank you, guys. Yeah. So tonight, guys, just a Q&A session. I know it's a little bit earlier. Josh couldn't make the show, so pretty much I'm just getting some thoughts out there. I'm really reflecting on where we're at right now, and I just sort of said that I'm actually feeling more on the downer side. It's weird. I've come back out of the weekend without the game and thinking I think it's just a step too far for us. I'm usually optimistic and think we have it, but to get 6 out of 7 games based on our current form, we haven't strung together even 2 or 3 at max. So I'm just sort of erring on the realistic side that we might not get there. But for me, the actual key is to get this first game, the Raiders, and then go and get the next 2. So get 3 games and then evaluate from there. But if you really lose this Raiders game, for me, I think you really start to go into like, okay, reassess the whole season, get the guys rested that've been playing injured, and then you bring in the young guys. So that's kind of where I'm talking about, guys. But yeah, chuck in your comments. I'll pretty much share your thoughts as well. So just us together tonight, pretty much. Yeah, my man couldn't make it in tonight, so just more of a Q&A, get thoughts out. Appreciate everyone kind of sharing everything that they have. Yeah, kia ora, Rich, and Chris and Jacko saying, yeah, basically can lose 1 more game and just sneak into the finals. Yeah, I just feel that is too difficult for me, maybe. And maybe I'm just flat after the no footy, but I'm really interested to see how this game goes. Hey, kia ora all. Robbie saying, yeah, I hope we make that, but I don't think we will. Yeah, I get this weird feeling. Kieran B. Barney for Player of the Year. Yeah, we've got him at Player of the Year. Me and Ash did our tier list last week, and he's actually a cut above everyone below him. You could probably argue Dylan Walker, but Dills has had a few injuries. But yeah, Barney's consistency, he actually holds up, I think, definitely as Player of the Year. I'm pretty sure. Tanya, yes, kia ora, Tans. And Jared's saying it's a very long time. The Warriors made a run to just make the 8, so who knows? Yes, is it 8? Yeah, it's a very long time. The Warriors made a run. Yeah, I think you're talking maybe 2011. I can't really remember the year that we made a run. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the chat, but I think 2011. It's the good thing about it. If you do make a run, you can almost get on a roll, and you become one of the most dangerous teams in the comp. But the effort it takes to get there, and ultimately, I think, I mean, you'll get to. I think the point for this year, if anything, for me, is like just to get to the 8. I don't think we'll do anything in the 8. Like, I'm not predicting us making a grand final. I think ultimately your flaws in the regular season, they get found out, and by the time it gets to those games, you're either running on fumes or you just get found out. But the key, I still think it's an effort to get to the 8 and a lot to learn from it. Hey, Richard. Hey, appreciate it, man. From your confidence is high. I can accept that too. Yeah, and some of us say we're on both sides. I understand that. Jack is hopefully Barney doesn't play many minutes and comes out of Origin K. He'll be vital in the especially and we know the Raiders. We've played them. They're very physical pack. You need to match them. So hopefully Barney, does have a light workload. Yeah, Tristan, the Bulldogs game actually gave me more confidence than doubt. To be honest, it was the hardest we played all season. Um, yeah, it's so weird, and I'm really interested to see how. I think for me, I would say the same if we put on a performance against the Raiders, because I think you have games like that where you give everything, and you just don't hope that next game that was the straw that broke the camel's back, that loss, and you just don't hope that it falls away. You know what I mean? So we're asking for that consistency and effort. Was Does the data show that we can get to that level again on a regular basis? From last year's perspective, yes. Now, if they've found that perfect balance, and everyone's back from injuries and they've got everyone working together as a unit, which they did against the Bulldogs, I'd actually be inclined to say, yeah, they will go on a run. I just need to see it strung together in a couple of games. Like I said, you need to get these first 3, and they have to be, I suppose, strong performances to warrant that. But I'd love it. I'd love to, bro. I did feel that. I'm just thinking ahead and thinking, was that everything we had, or is that actually just the beginning? We'll have to find out. There were positive signs for the next season. Seeing the Bulldogs game, JFH and Barney will be a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, I've got some questions around that whole situation, and it'll be good to chat with you guys what you think. Because I think it's really important. Yeah, Jacko's saying we should have iced the Dogs game. Awesome. Kieran B, yeah, gonna have to get the calculator out at the end of the year like the old days. 2011, I think we won 6 in a row, then we lost the first games of the finals. So under new finals rules, we'd never been in the grand final. That is true. That is true. That is true. We made that 2011, and you think about it, how we got there. It was the most craziest of ways to get there. Ultimately, we got found out by Manly in the end, but no doubt we all love to get into finals and enjoy that. But there's value in having a run of 6 games, because you're up on a high and you can beat any team on their day. Like I said with the Titans, if the Titans can maintain this, how they've been performing, I'd hate to see them, any team. If I'm an NRL team, I'd hate to see Titans first week of the finals, because the way they're playing right now, they'll just destroy anyone. But it's about timing your run, so that there's a validity to that as well. Chris saying 2008 was a big run from memory. Won 6+ games in a row, and we beat Melbourne at 8th. First ever team from 8th to beat the number 1 team. Yeah, again, those would think were good runs as well. I think Barney will play big minutes. Absolutely. Tristan's talking about we had all 3 of our backs out with forwards playing in the backline call and go away to get in front by 2, possibly the game to win. Okay, yeah, yeah. The Bulldogs game is interesting because yes, there were moments they did, like, Tamaya definitely missed some kicks. He missed even the setup play. I've talked about the setup play into the sets when they had good ball, and like they honestly, that first half, the amount of pill that the Bulldogs dropped, it was like we had ample opportunities, and we dropped a lot of them. So there's definitely that valid point. Now, whether we've talked about and discussed it, but that's why I think it's interesting, and that is that we carry the form. I think there is, like we just talked about, the resilience and the effort from that performance. I think for the boys, they have to leave that there, but at the same time, they need to take the positives or the work ons and carry them in now to the Raiders game. And if I see that resilience and effort still there, mate, definitely we're feeling confident. You know what I mean? So, um, Chris, do you think the Titans game was really damaging for us? I feel like it was. It's weird because the Titans are actually a team we don't match up very well with them. Like I kind of realized watching that Titans game back is that they were just too quick for us. And you've seen them put on some performances. I think I watched them play last week. Who was it? And they tore them to shreds as well. The speed they have, the form they're in. They're defensively really solid as well. They can hold up the tackler. They can slow the ball down quite well. Um, so they're actually, it's a weird one because they're a team that it's too much for us, I felt. And if we met them again in the finals, I would actually be swaying towards the Titans. I think they're that fast. Um, they're that, like, kind of in tune and playing in form at the moment. Fafita as well is. I just think that it kind of one of those games that just caught us not by surprise, but just caught us out for what we lack, which I think was some speed at times. But um, I think the damage from that, probably not. You probably say the recovery, the adjustment to the Broncos game and then the Bulldogs game was good. Um, but you'll ultimately think that left a little bit of a chink in the armor. But I think more so in the case that if I saw them again in another game, I would be a little bit worried. Yeah, good memories. Inu with that miracle try. That's right. They should have tackled him. They should have tackled him and they let him play on. Um, okay, I'll keep going down a little bit, guys. Thoughts on the Dragons knocking the Bronx? I want to go back to this and probably do it in my year review at the end, but I think the teams that have had good coaches have improved. And I think that's been the leveling factor for us definitely this season. Like the Dragons game, Flanagan is a good coach, and I think he's been able to get the best out of that playing group, and he's been getting dubs, and wins, and he's in defensive resilience is strong. So all those teams that have good coaches have improved this year. And if you think about it, we've lost to those teams. So those teams we beat last year, for example, the Bulldogs twice, the Dragons twice. I think we did them. Titans, we beat them. I think we played them once, so we beat them. That we lost all of those games, and that's credit to the recruitment of Des Hasler, Flanagan, Seraldo, who's had another year, and we've come to see him as a defensive kind of minded coach and has done well. Who was it? Desi Hasler, Fitzgibbon. Although they're on a down, they got us at a good time at the start of the season. So there was some. I think it's acknowledgement that the competition has improved from the 2023 comp. I think the 2023 comp, those teams were down, but they recruited and they got coaching in and built systems, and they've improved. So I think it's similar for the Dragons. I think the Broncos are probably looking on a downward spiral, whereas the Dragons, with the addition of those coaches, I think have helped. Okay, just keep moving through, guys. Considering Capewell and Barnett will play big minutes in the decider, would you want them to back up? If not, would you? Who do you think should fill in? I really want them to back up. I think this unit of forwards have an opportunity to show some dominance, show some ownership, take responsibility for the performances that they've had. Now, if they're banged up and they can't go, and considering Capewell, I think will be playing. I imagine the majority he'll be playing an 80-minute game. Capewell's more the one I'm feeling like if you can replace him with either a Leka Halasima or a Laban potentially. And obviously, I'd push forward up into the starting left back row position, and then bring someone else through. Um, but Barnett for me is the key. We need him on that field. We need him. We've seen performances the Titans game when he wasn't on the field, I think, and we saw what happened. We need his leadership. But Capewell for me, you can probably adjust him, but Barnett needs to be on that game. Just looking through, guys. Yeah, just and again, the Titans are teams. Yeah, and again, credit to Dizzy. I think we'll probably talk about Tane Tuopiki at some point. But if you're looking at the way that they use Keanu Kinney and the way Keanu plays, he's physical for a small guy too. But it's that speed that kills. And they figured out they've adapted probably the best or one of the best to that style. I mean, you look at the Melbourne Storm, the Suafar Long, or the smaller type fullback, and that's where I think Tane can be of massive value for us. Is if he gets his opportunity again, I think we could go on a run because speed I think kills. I think you need speed, and especially at this time of year, you could probably catch some teams out with speed, and that's why I think that's a good lesson in terms of the quick play of the ball, the six again. You need quick guys to take advantage and close that gap. You all go back. They go back 10 meters, and if they can get up earlier, then you only get 2 or 3. Well, with the smaller guy, by the time that person gets back, they might have gained 8 or 10 meters. So that's the value of the small man. Yes, just moving through everyone. Yeah, Hasler he has a good read on us. I'm not sure his record, but obviously the Manly years, he's pretty much dominated us. I can't remember if it was through his Bulldogs tenure how well he did, but he's a good coach. Yeah. And actually, Jacko made a good point here about Dogs. They'll go at finals fast. Their attack is honestly, I look back at the game and they threw nothing at us. They're great defensive side, but I think we've seen teams pile the points on them. What was it? The Roosters, I think, did a number on them. I think any attacking minded team that has some talent will put a number on the Bulldogs, and a team that's more defensive. So for me, probably kryptonite would be the Roosters, Melbourne Storm. Any of those teams will probably get them. Yeah, Tans. It was great watching the Broncos lose. Alec, hey Daniel, good to see you. Yeah, happy Monday. Hope you're doing well, brother. Let's just get into Alex's question. Quite a few Broncos players off contract soon. Do you think we could steal someone like Cobbo or Xavier Willison? History says probably not. I'm not sure. I mean, usually a star Aussie player. I'll talk about Cobbo. He will most likely resign. I find that most Brisbane players, apart from what Kate Wall's come over, but actual Brisbane-born base players very rarely come to the Warriors. If I'm correct, maybe I'm wrong, but I just get the feeling Brisbane isn't a club that we always attract players from. Although we've contradicting myself, Kate Well, Reece Walsh, Jesse Arthurs, but that was a loner. I can't think of anyone else, but I think most of the Brisbane boys usually stay there. Now Xavier would be a one that I'm not sure how his contract is. You saying he's off contract soon? If I could throw money at Xavier and get him over, I would, because I think he's a great long term option for us. He'd be great off the bench. He'd be great as a starter. I think Xavier's like one of those guys that you build in a weird way, in a way you probably build around him a bit. So I think so. But whether we can pull it off, that's always been the tricky thing for us. Hey Joe, yeah, I think Liquor would be the better option, and for me, Liquor, I'll just quickly talk about him. I think the kid is going to be a star. Now, I only say that because in one of the biggest moments, he took on Bronson Sherry and decided I'm going to wreak havoc today. I know most young guys and youthful players will come in and they'll have exuberance, but sometimes they'll have an error in their game. But Lecker wanted to make a stand, make a point, be a point of difference, and I think he's going to be an option. Now, if you say yes, Capewell can't play, obviously I'd go with Lecker as well. And I know he's a left edge player. I've spoken to Ash and a few others that he is a left edge player. I'd maybe like to see him out there a little bit, but he seems like a player that if you just get him on the field, like he'll make an impact no matter where he is, and he pretty much did that. Robbie, surely we win next game. I really do hope so, man. Chris is saying, what's frustrating is this year's top four don't seem to be unbeatable. All feel like you have a good shot if you are in the 8 at them, not like last year where it was Broncos Panthers. Yeah, I suppose it's an interesting kind of viewpoint. I think for me, the you're looking at the top teams and how do they track along going into the finals. Storm, do they maintain this run of insanity? I mean, they've had so many close losses at the start of the year, but they've seemed to have grown another leg, I feel. They've taken their game to another level. Panthers, they always round out really well at the end of seasons. Roosters, probably interested to see what they do. I mean, the rest, like you're looking Dolphins, Bulldogs. Let me just quickly look at Sea Eagles, Cowboys, Sharks. They're not solid for me. And Roosters, you could probably say aren't fully solid as well. But yeah, the rest are up for grabs, really. And it's again on the day, can you be better than everyone else? Hey, kia ora, Strictly. Welcome in, man. Yeah, we're just doing a kind of a Q&A tonight. Okay, I'm just going to keep going through everyone. Tristan, do you see if RTS is doing if Montoya is out? Yeah, I do. I like the RTS. I think his carry game is actually one of the strongest in terms of from out of yardage or as a fullback or a winger. So I definitely do feel that. So I agree with that. Jacko saying Wester is still a very young coach. Saw a couple of old clips of clearing his years learning, and he had John Hart beside him. Maybe a top mental type mentor would help Webster a lot. That's a good call. And actually, if you think about John Hart, I actually think it's a shame we kind of that whole John Hart. I'd love to interview John Hart actually, and talk about his time with the Warriors. I think he was quite pivotal in the background. But there was a lot of success when John was there as kind of a mentor for Ivan, and it seemed to work. Maybe Webby, you could look at that for him as well. Gilbert Enoch, I know he's in the kind of the player development from an All Blacks perspective, but maybe someone like that would be good. But Webby's done great, and like you said, he's young. He's done well to manage it, but this year for him has been one of his biggest challenges. I suppose if you they do an internal review and see what could improve, and then maybe you find that, you know what I mean? Yeah, do we really need to though? We've got so much depth, and I honestly think our club is trying to get as much New Zealand-born players into the club. Yeah, well, Willison is one. Again, Willison would be like a JFH sign, like a guy that's been developed overseas and then comes back home. I mean, you might get another window with Willison. Maybe you let him play out a contract and you bring him home later when he's a bit more fully developed, like a JFH. But you can't deny that Willison isn't a top talent. And for me, probably rank above most of the guys we have currently, like right now. Maybe you might say something different when Sifakula comes up and Mayu. But for what Willison's done so far in first grade, I think he's going to be even a more premier talent. So that's kind of something we need to really think about. Yep. Okay, sorry guys, I'm just catching up. I think I'm a little bit behind. Okay, I'll go to Alexis's one here. What are your thoughts on all the Tigers sin bins? I reckon a few have been pretty unfair and looks hard for them to get momentum. There are some tricky ones. I mean, I saw the one Adam G sent off Uppy. I didn't agree with it. I think a lot of the playing of the ball, guys move left off the mark. So I actually don't agree with a lot of a lot of those decisions, and actually think that it was unfair. I thought Uppy was square. I thought everything was well, but they have this weird knack for, like, if you play at the dummy half's hands, they usually give a penalty. It's so weird. But anyway, I thought that was kind of unfair. I can't speak to the other ones. I haven't really watched much of their games. Um, but it seems at times with them, they aren't able to wrestle back momentum. And I feel there is, like, when referees are feeling as though that you're not keeping up with the pace of the game, they usually do get into a penalty kind of, or a six again thing. So you have to kind of, I think that's what the thing we've done so well is, if you look at our record, I think penalties and six agains we give away, I think we're quite low comp wise. But I think that's based off of our our effort to show that we are consistent, that we are, like, getting back on time, that we're controlling the ruck, all those things. So I'd say for them, Tigers, yeah, I feel they get some rough calls, but you got to be able to, like, strangle, hold back. Um, I find that it's favoring the offensive side a lot of the time, and if you aren't able to win that battle, it usually goes the other way. But I can't really speak on them completely. Um, I'll just talk to the Mantis' question. Is it a failure if we miss the 8? Yeah, in some ways it is. My expectation was this was the big push for Sean and Tohu and that group. Um, in that sense, how it ended up, I feel a bit gutted. I felt that we would carry on from last season, but that magical season that we had, I think teams have kind of adjusted to our style, and maybe we've become a little bit predictable, that we've kind of hit our peak with this playing group. And maybe that's just what it is. You'll say injuries, all of those factors coming in. I think, again, I talk about guys like Dallin hasn't reached the levels he did last year. I mean, guys had standout seasons last year, and they've fallen back to the mean, or for whatever reason. I think systematically we've tried to be the same, but like I said, those teams that got good coaches and have improved, they've beaten us, and they've probably been the difference from us making the 8 or not. So you have to say the comps improved as well, and maybe we haven't, like the recruitment of Catewell, who started in the back row, has now been demoted to the bench, back to the left row. Like, the adjustments and changes Webster made, you'll probably look back and think, maybe the recruitment of this year wasn't enough to carry on, or like to lift the team to a new level. I think we kind of have stayed at our level with a whole bunch of things surrounding it, and Webster's tried to, like I said, jumpstart the season with all the different changes, pushing guys into different spots, but to ultimately no avail. So I think there'll be a bit of that for sure. Absolutely. Let me just get some more questions. Did we overestimate where the Warriors are as a team based on our great 2023 season? I think the 2023 season was actually really good based on the competition we played. Like, I felt we beat the teams we were supposed to beat last year, because we were the better side. Like, for that season, I think we were one of the best teams in the comp, and it reflected on where we ended up. But it doesn't. Yeah, that performance last year, wasn't able to translate to a better performance this season. I honestly think there's some, like, I've kind of painted myself in the corner of supporting RTS, but before signing RTS, I felt as though we didn't need him. But I've talked myself into, like, to having him. But my honest gut opinion was, I felt as though he didn't suit this team. Capewell for me was like a Ryan Hoffman signing. I definitely felt he wasn't going to fit, and for so far, I think I'm right. But I've tried to back the boys, but I just think there's some ultimate areas that we haven't. Players have either dipped in form, teams have figured us out. We talk about the SJ situation, the predictability, the injuries, and ultimately it's just ended up being one of those seasons. But like I said, there's an opportunity here to reflect to like the effort from the Bulldogs game. We talked about the Warriors' attitude, defensive and effort last year. I think that was probably the best we've seen, and look, we're all in nearly at the end of the season, so that tells you a lot that the best kind of defensive effort we've seen all year has come this late. So it probably reflects how poorly we've been, and just got to call it what it is. But if you isolate 2023 to itself, the where the players were, Sean Tohu, how they were playing, they were at elite levels. That system is. I don't want people to try and tie on. Oh, we weren't that great last year. I think we were bloody good based on the competition that we played. But this year, that competition has improved, and we're kind of where we're at right now. Who do you think was our biggest challenge going into the end of the year, bro? How many wins do you think we're capable of snatching, possibly slingshotting ourselves into the 8? Yeah, it's. Look, I think I just said to start off with that we have to hit the ground running. So for me, you gotta really nail this one against the Raiders. If you don't nail this one against the Raiders, I'm pretty much content to just going into rebuild mode, getting guys that were injured, getting them off, and bringing in the young cups. Raiders, in a weird way, actually does give me a little thing because the Ricky's Raiders, they can be on and off, but you'd like to say that we would probably get that one. But again, I'm waiting for some back-to-back performances, consistency-wise. Dolphins at Suncorp scares me a bit, definitely, but not as much as probably Seagulls at 4 points. That's almost a cemetery for us. I think we've always struggled at 4 points to get a dub there. And depending on where they're at in their season, it's like one of the do or die matches like that. I feel like we'll get the Bulldogs at home. And then the Sharks, I think that's up in the air based on where they're at. So for me, it's probably the Seagulls is the one that I'm like, Seagulls is like, we're not going to win that. I just don't trust us at 4 points. Tough place to play. Of course it is. Yep. No, it will be. It will be. No, not. If we don't make it 8, it's total failure. Yeah, it'll be on those players too. It'll be on the team, Webby, all the changes and all that. They'll have to own that. The reason I was leaving on time is I feel we have overestimated our 2024 season from. Like I said, the competition improved, but I don't think we. I don't think we lifted to another gear. Whereas you look at other teams, they've lifted to another gear. It's flattened. This season is, I think, definitely harder than what across the board. SJ's injury playing on too long. That was a flaw. That was an error. See, for me, they should have rested him when it was first there. And actually, it surprised me because it wasn't until Webby put Tamati in at the Panthers game and Dolphins game that he realized he had something there with Tamati as a halfback. And so I'm reflecting on it, thinking, mate, if you actually had rested SJ when he was supposed to and played Tamati, you might have got a few more results. And then if you had a Sean, we might be talking about Sean in this last run here, going for 6 games. You probably feel more confident with Sean, a healthy Sean. But I think that's ultimately an error on their coaching staff, and how they manage that situation. Yep. We've fallen from grace since last season, but I still think at times we'll look better than we have in previous years. Hard to back up when half the team's injured or plays with injuries. Yeah, injuries has played its toll. I think actually the style of play, the system itself, players haven't been able to cope. Let's just call it what it is. I think it's a very demanding system. But at the same time, the new NRL, you got to be so physically fit to be able to play the style. But I think the players like SJ and Tohu and that, um, if we had Tohu playing the system probably 2 or 3 years ago, you're probably looking at us really dominating. So I think the demands made on the players and to be consistent at this level, you have to have a high level of caliber of player and in good health. Toy might be a bit long in the tooth for this type of system, but you're seeing bodies breaking down. I think that's based off the speed of the NRL, but also, physically, we want to be that grinded out style. We're not scoring points off of long range tries. All of our points are based off structure. It's about getting a kick down the field, defending, and winning that kind of grinded out style. Now, the cost of that grinded out style is that bodies do break down. So I think that's kind of where, if I'm Webby and I'm looking forward, moving forward, every guy that I want to get, if I want to persist with this, then you need guys that can physically hack it. You probably want to say the young guys would, but then again, you don't want to just chuck them in the Lions den all the time and they get beaten up. So it's one of those systems. I think, it's quite a physically taxing way to play. But if you look at what Penrith and what Bulldogs are doing, it gets results, bro. So you just need players that can perform on it week in, week out. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Not a failure, Burrito. Okay, that's cool, and that's cool for everyone. Again, I probably sit in the middle. It is a letdown based on where we were. Like I from my overhyping or projection of the year, I actually think it was, but that's all good. I was surprised. Oh, Alexis, I was surprised to see a few players like CNK, DWZ, and CHT are off contract at the end of the season. I would have thought that first two would have been definitely been extended by now. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the wing position, currently in the cup, guys. Like I don't think we're all feeling that confident about Kossi and taking a spot off of DWZ. I think Stellan will get an extension. CNK should. There's also the option you could, move forward with Tane, but CNK does a lot of work, dirty work. But you're seeing his body look break down this season. So again, tells you to the fact that some guys are struggling with the workload. And CHT off contract. I didn't realize he was off contract as well. Maybe to play the 1 year. I think CHT will get an extension for sure. I think Cementus. Sorry guys, I know I'm trying to catch up. Sachi, so we basically have to win every game from here, pretty much. I think, like I just quickly said, get these first 3 games, you build a bit of momentum, then carry on from there, and you just get as far as you can. You know what I mean? In your players, what players have improved this year compared to 2023? Barney, Rocco, who else? Trying to think of improvement. Yeah, see, this goes back to my point. Everyone last year had like a above average season from their previous level. I think a lot of guys have dropped back. You're probably looking at Barney's take another step up. Man, it's really hard for me to really say. I can't really say right now, supervillain, but Barney probably is the only one that stands out to me. I think everyone else roughly, well, CHT I think has come back well. RTS for me hasn't done anything to warrant the hype, but then again, I've talked with Ash about, is that take away his name and he's been okay. And just quickly, Jacko, how about Tohu getting another? I think it is a mistake by the time. I think it is. I think it's time for Tohu to. Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I'd probably want to be moving forward with a plan. Sorry guys, let me get back down to some of these questions. I know a lot of guys commenting. Do you see that City 2 got a top 30 contract? My prediction is Webby has him waiting to come on for Montoya if he's still injured for the Raiders. Yeah, it's great for Setu. I think he's a good talent. Um, Again, the transitioning period, and we'll see what happens. I think Montoya's time might be up at the Warriors. And saying that, I think Montoya's been solid for what he's been able to do. I've never always liked Montoya in terms of his finishing and positional play at times, but for yardage carries and all those effort areas, I think he's been pretty good. Setu, I think he'll go well, but it's really tricky with ones like him and Kossi, because if you look at Cost, the 2023 cost was great, but now it's kind of he's out of the picture, and Setu's probably, for me, he's probably eclipsed him in terms of that. But you'd have to say Setu will have his moments too where he may not be in hot form and could struggle. But I like the prospect of Setu, that's for sure. And if he does get a game against the Raiders, do it right now. I actually don't mind any of the guys coming up. For me, it's like, if you, as a team, if you have it, you have it, and you'll beat the Raiders. If you don't have it, I'm not going to blame the Setu too for the loss. You either have it or you don't have it as a team. So yeah, I'd chuck him in there if it's there to be done. Um, thank you, Rich. Thank you, brother, for another awesome show for us, for all the Warriors finals. Here in Oz, we go again this week. Yeah, we love it, man. We love it, absolutely. I'll just quickly. Eels might be a hard game at home, and yeah, Eels is another team that kind of, they're tricky too, because they got offload, they got speed. If they can get it right, like, any team can rock up, and basically our home form for me isn't always the greatest. So yeah. Okay, just question here. Any thoughts on having sports psychologists, physiologists assigned to the boys, especially the young ones? Isaiah Couture, Petco have mentioned it's helped in a lot of games. I think we should. I talked about that guy Enocher from the All Blacks. I know he isn't working with them anymore, but I wonder if he could come in and do some work with them. Now, there was a guy that Sean and that I heard from, I think it was Ice's podcast, that Sean and them have one, that has helped with Sean. So if you can get them in, I mean, I would probably pay for one on the staff to work with the boys through the whole season. Like, I don't know how much it costs, 100 grand maybe. For a pro level, we're probably looking at 200 grand a day, I suppose. But yeah, it's probably too much out of the cap. But you probably want to look at getting one and getting some sessions for a lot of the boys. Yeah. Strictly saying, with the change of speed and constant rule changes and longer seasons, do you think it's too much for older players now? It's like a young fast man's game. The older boys are struggling. Yeah, I mean, you just look at Tohu as an example, right? I think you can tell he's struggling with that part of the game. Getting up, getting back 10. You just seen his body is breaking down, and yeah, it's a young man's game now. The way the pace of the six again, you need as much speed and agility. You need physicality at the same time, but you need flexibility. And I think Toy's, just body wise, is just, his body is letting him down. Honestly, like I said, if we had Toy like playing this system with Webby 3 or 4 years ago, he'd probably be dominating still. But yeah, it is what it is. I think that the game is changing, and probably looking at trends across the NRL. Like this year, the NRL, the season, I think teams are exploiting, like, from every part of the field. And if you don't have the pace, to deal with it, you're going to get burnt. 66-6. I know it's a big scoreline, from the Titans, but it's just that actually might be like an okay scoreline when we reflect on the whole this era of six against, because teams will get blown out quickly. Chris saying, in my opinion, this is where we found out a few things. Your speed, failing to reward the backup players coming through, players in wrong position, injuries, and coaches making up. Yeah, Chris, that's actually a good summary. I really said speed has been an issue for us, and teams with speed have usually beaten us. I think we've struggled in terms of again not being able to control the ruck, and then having guys that aren't the best currently in terms of getting out to the edges and making their reads, and I think we've found ourselves at times called out a lot. And if you think about it, teams are almost scoring on us in the first and second tackles of sets. That tells you a lot about they're not trying to tire us out. They can hit you at any time, and they feel confident they can get points on you and get to the edges and score a try in the corner. So it tells you a lot about what they think about our team. That they can like for me, that's been the biggest thing is these line breaks and scoring within the first and second tackle. Like that's if you can't get over that at the NRL level, you're not going to get anywhere. So, like, just as much as it's important to win the 6 games for me, you got to keep the points per game down to below 18. If we're winning games like 46-44, I'm like, nah, that's not going to be conducive to winning games. So you have like for me, the most important thing is yes, is the winning the games going through, but you have to stop the points. You can't be bleeding points, and that's why I think those last couple games were good. But we just need to see that continue on. But all those points you make there, bro, they're all valid. Um, yeah, like pump up the likes, people. I know there's 50 of you in here. Can we get 50 likes? I appreciate that, guys. Um, can't wait for the new SJ podcast. Yeah, interested to see how that goes and see how he goes in that space. I wonder if that is, I saw the little clip of him saying, "Are you going to play next year?" And he kind of shunned away from it. But yeah, yeah. PJ, yo, Futta Futta Wolves mean, all right, it's true. Xavier Williams play. Oh, true. Futta Futta, yeah, yeah, mean. Yeah, I know them, and I'm in Hamilton, so yeah. Um, yeah, there's a good point on Lecker, bro. Yeah, Leckers will probably be the perfect type. That type of forward is probably where the game's going in terms of the speed of the game. Okay, I think I've kind of caught up everyone. Um, um, yeah, okay. I think I'm kind of reading your comments, guys, and I think I've kind of got the gist of everyone's comments. Chuck in a few more. I'll just quickly go through a few points. Like I said, I'm doubting a top 8 finish. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on how we kind of move forward in terms of approaching the forwards next year. I think JFH coming is great, but for me, he's not a like for AFB. AFB is a different mold, different style, and so is JFH. I think JFH provides that grittiness, the ultimate competitor type thing. Whereas AFB gives you that flair, that yardage, that footwork. So then they're not replacing each other as such. But my question is, do we need an actual kind of player that can replace what AFB does, or do you think from within the actual team there are players that we actually don't need the AFB mold type player to be successful next year? Interested to see what you guys' thoughts are on this. Let me know if you think we need to get someone, or if there's someone that can be pushed up into the front row, or do you think literally Barney and JFH, that starting combo, will be the right combo? Now, probably the counter argument to my point is look at Leota and JFH starting props. They don't have much footwork. They just work hard and grind hard. And that could be true as well. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts. And I'm not saying either way. I just want to hear what you guys think. Yeah, we are talking next season. Shout out 40. I'm just getting some thoughts out there, guys. Strictly saying, I think Egan will have. Yeah, Egan's another guy as well that hasn't had a breakout season like he had last year, but he's been consistent and good. So I'm interested to see what you guys think. I think if we got Willison and he started offloading, it would be game over for other teams. It's funny because we're not a massive offloading team. If you think of it, look at our numbers, we don't have a high offload number per game. And I suppose that goes again back to the model, and maybe this is where JFH and Barney will work, is that we play the percentages, we very rarely offload, all those types of things. And I as Knight saying Barney kind of playing better, and that's a valid point as well. Chucking Jose, if TMM is the guy, you got to at least keep SJ as halves coach to help, especially developing confidence for icing moments. JFH would be what Webby needs regarding being that team to grind others. Yeah, I think on the TMM point, I mean, I get that he isn't born and actually he's his own player, with his own different skill set and skills. You probably say he hasn't quite cracked it as a legit top tier halfback. In fact, he hasn't even really played, as a full half or a full season. So there's some interesting ones. I mean, you got the likes of Metcalf coming back too, and I think Metcalf has been given that long term contract, and maybe they've always viewed Metcalf obviously as he was a starter with Sean this year. And maybe Metcalf is the actual 7 and they go with someone else as a 6. I think either way, if you can get a contract done for tomorrow and keep him on the books, he's still a great player, and he's actually very valuable. And for me, he's a cut above the likes of a Ben Farr, Luke Hansen, and that won't be there until another couple of years. So I think based off what happens in the offseason, I would keep him. And if it's for me, Metcalf hasn't proven anything yet. Other than that, he's a great support player. He's had some good games with SJ, but for him as an actual 7 controlling games, we haven't seen that as well. So I think determine on where they're at as a club, who they back. If the Mighty gets a long-term contract, they value him. If he doesn't, then obviously they're moving forward with Metcalf. But I definitely think he's Tamati is a cut above the likes of a Ben Farr or Hansen. So I think he fits in unless they go out and recruit a Dylan Brown or something like that. Then that changes everything for me. JFU Barnett can toughen up the pack. The likes of Maya coming off the bench, and you look at Sifakula as well. Yeah, here we go. T Mackie saying JFH Barnett, Sifakula, Mayu Ale is a good front rotation. It's actually not bad, actually. Liquor can provide. Yeah, there's some good talking points there, and like again, if we don't go into market, it goes back to the fact that we're trusting in our cup guys to come up. And if Liquor is any example, and Super saying JFA mentoring and setting the standards for Liquor Mayu next crop of forwards, so exciting. Yeah, and you got to add that value in. I think if you look at the Barnett and JFH, if they click, and it's not so much that they have to click as a duo, but from a mentality perspective, like creating such resilience and toughness that they won't let anyone slip in standards, then you'd say for me personally, that's better than having an AFB and a Barnett. So I actually think that's quite valuable, what you guys are saying there. And Strictly saying definitely not like for like, but JFH physicality is second to none. It's just that Big Ads has that footwork, in the post contact, but Fish plays that ball so quickly it's going to get a great opportunity. That's a great point. Fish does have a quick play the ball. Crazy thing, the Warriors aren't an offload team considering the offload Kings we used to have. Yeah, we've gone away from that model. And I think it's a great thing. I think it's to compete with an Australian model. I think it's probably you have to embrace that's the way forward. You want more consistency instead of a roller coaster. You know what I mean? So But it's crazy to think, the amount of offloading talent we've had through the years is insane. I think we keep talking about this year because Warriors never say die. We just say give it to the ref. Hey, I respect that. Respect that 40. We're just chatting really, bro. And you know, talking hypotheticals, but if anything. So Liquor yeah, Liquor's got that footwork, absolutely. We have Sultan needs speed and flair, Metcalf, Zion, Halasima. Yeah, and like I said, if you're looking at trends, um, you want to say speed. My only thing with Metcalf is experience. Now he might be at a prime year. He might be a prime thing that he can go and do that job. I'm just being devil's advocate, saying, you know, there will be some hit and misses with Metcalf, but from based off of they've signed him long term. I'm hoping that he kind of wants to. Um, but yeah, technically he hasn't had a year or a season as a halfback. But let's wait and see if SJ does retire. And I think that's what Jacko here is saying. Metcalf wants the halfback spot if SJ retires. Do we rate Mitts still? I want to see him as an actual genuine half. The only game we saw it was with him at, I think it was the Titans or the Dolphins, both of those games. I can't remember who played. Maybe Sean played the second one, but I think we need to give him a full season as a halfback. If Sean retires, you paid him for that extension. You got to give him the opportunity to play. If you've signed him as the half, give him the full opportunity. If you come back and evaluate and say he's not the man, that's all good. But he needs that opportunity, that's for sure. JFH to turn the whole for. I was remember at 23 Charles games. A lot of fans wanted Mets to find how things work. Yeah, they did. They did too. Well, I think Sean benefited from coming back home and playing under the Webster. I think he's benefited a lot from having that consistency, the performance. There's guys outside him actually being able to perform too. For many years there, he was just a lone kind of guy to create. And their system, if you actually think about it, the structure's been really good for him. But his elite level play in terms of icing moments, getting guys picking the right option at the right time has been a huge benefit. And I think the fact that he hasn't had to play too much off the cuff. I think of some games though last year and probably this year when he's been asked to do too much and it hasn't worked. And that's the old Sean overcompensating for the lack of support. But when everything's been well balanced, he's been, last year definitely Dally M as well. So JFH turned the 4-pack. Yep, cool. I reckon TMM is lax and just happy to play wherever they need him and go hunting at his time off. Yeah, hey, a lot of these boys have been offering Jazz out on the hunt. Walks is loving the hunt. TMM was one of the best halfbacks in the game when SJ was out. Obviously, they'll go with TMM. I'll be interested. Like I said, they're giving the money to Metcalf. TMM, I think, is on another maybe year or two. I'm just interested to see what they go with. But TMM, it gives you that experience. He's been in big games, whereas Metcalf coming into a starting role as a fullback, as a halfback, he'll need a full season to iron out, chink out everything. You know what I mean? But nice to be seeing TMM and Metcalf together. Yeah, it's weird because Sean. It's so funny that Sean played the whole season last year, and almost the whole of the first half of the season, and we haven't seen any of that combo with TMM and Metcalf. So, it's interesting. Next, a long kicking game, Mackay, and so someone is with one. Yeah, that's a good point. He doesn't have a deep kick. The only thing benefit him is if he has a good go forward and he gets to cook. His actual other options like goal line kicks, grubbers, and that is actually quite good. But in terms of like a yardage kick, yeah, He does. He does. We have to trust the cup guys to come, but it will take a couple seasons for them to dominate. Yeah, and that's where you got to kind of pedal and meddle with these guys. Need a shot. Look at Liquor. He needs an opportunity. And like, for me, the 50 game mark is real important. 50 games of your NRL, you start to become a really consistent first grader. I think if we get in trouble if we aren't bringing these guys through and getting to that kind of 50 game mark by the next couple of years, we're actually setting ourselves back even more. So I think we actually have to get some of these guys through and understand that some of them will struggle. There will be errors. There will be, once they get a bigger role, they'll get more hands on the ball, and that also means more opportunities, but also more mistakes potentially. But you have to say they got to get some time in the ball at some point. Your six can do long kicking now, whether it's Metcalf. Your six can do the long kicking game now. It's whether Metcalf or CHT can grow that long kicking game. I think Metcalf has that long kicking game. And again, it comes back to combinations. I think despite the loss against the Bulldogs, I think majority CHT and Tamaite's work. Now, the interesting thing will be to see if Tamaite and Metcalf can get on the same page and work as well. Whether whoever is at 7 or 6, for me is up for debate. But does that combo work? I think for Sean and Metcalf, it worked. But there were moments too where it kind of it didn't work. But for majority, I think it definitely worked. I mean, we're not talking here a combo that's like a Luai and Cleary. I think those combinations need time to build, and you'd have to say as a club, we're going to commit to Tamaite and Metcalf as our halves pairing. You'd have to give them 2 or 3 years. But if you get to the end of that 2 or first year and think, oh man, this failed, these two just do not match up well, then you've wasted a year. So for me, it's not just even Metcalf playing 6 or 7. It's like, who's going to be the right combo for him? If you're backing Metcalf, if you think Metcalf is the guy, who is the right combo for him to carry the team with him? That's going to be the interesting for me, because I think for the majority, Sean's carried the team. If you think of last year, and even in this system, the 5'8" doesn't have a massive role. His role is really a support player, a link player. But the 5'8" in the system isn't the key guy. It's really the lock and the halfback. They make all the key decisions. The 5'8" is, and so you've seen at times Metcalf's been great because he has a speed to support. He's not always creating as a 6. So it's really dependent on who's your lock, who's your first, who's your halfback. Can you trust that those guys are the guys you want? Now, who's the complementary? Tamaite and CHT's been great because CHT's been the great complementary to Tamaite. Tamaite and Sean hasn't worked because Tamaite isn't the great complementary to SJ. So that's the real key thing for me. If you tick those boxes and you go from halfback first, then you go to thing and you make sure that they match up. It can go both ways. Let me just quickly leadership. Okay, Chickly was bring up the queue. Leadership in the forwards is self-sort. As the backs, I'm a little worried about. Need leaders on outside both sides of the field. Who fills those roles, bro? It's so weird because I feel the back five as a unit, it hasn't hit the same form as they have last year. It's really weird because we all wanted someone with an X factor to come into the centers and kind of be that center figure to replace Pompey, but it's kind of figured out that Pompey is the most consistent and reliable center we've had. And actually, the best center run this year was by a back rower from New South Wales Cup and Leka Halasima. He's the only guy I've seen burn his outside center. So it tells you a lot about where the actual center position is. To be honest, there's probably no real X factor center that we have in the top grade or in the bottom grade. I'll probably Leotoa is the only guy. Sorry, Leotoa is the guy for me that he probably would crack it. Rocco Berry is a great defensive center. high work rate, not a guy that can beat a guy one-on-one. But again, that the center role isn't required you to destroy teams one-on-one. And very most of the times you're a distribution guy, you're a link player. But you do want something from your center in that game. And so I'm thinking Leotoa is that guy from what I've seen. But again, we've fallen back to the point that people wanted Pompey out and wanted to get rid of them. Now Pompey's considered your most consistent center. It's either bad recruitment or the guys from Cup aren't ready to make that transition, like a Leotoa and maybe an MGT. And so we're just in a point where some of our players, they are what they are. And then the likes, for example, Dallin has had an average season probably. I know I gave him a great season, but I'm thinking about it in the tier list. I actually think he's an average season. Montoya the same, although he's picked up in recent weeks. And then CNK as a fullback hasn't had the consistency or the effort or the numbers, I would even say, from last year. Probably been a tad bit jaded in his performance. So it's kind of going to be interesting to see whether or not he can, can make that. Like we bring the young guys up to Setu too. Yes, but again, you if you bring up Setu and a few others, you're losing some experience, and I think that's where maybe Pompey's been so consistent for him is his experience and knowledge to do the job. Pompey's not going to beat anyone on the outside. He's not going to destroy teams, but he'll be a great link player. He'll be a great guy. But again, it's almost like we wanted X Factor and we haven't gotten it yet. So, but I don't remember seeing Metcalf being a good ball player, Jared. He's a great runner, has that energy. It's whether I trust him, but like with tomorrow, just got to give Metcalf the chance. Yeah, just got to give him as a. I think he's actually kind of an organizing half in a weird way. He's got a good kicking game too, and that's what I'm thinking is like. It's so weird because these guys got injured and kind of like last year, the same injury, same amount of time. You saw Metcalf kind of take over, and that was a great run with Sean. And then now that Metcalf got injured this year, Tamati's had a great run as a halfback though. And so it's kind of like we need to give whoever they decide, that person needs to be backed and have the right halves partner with them. So that's kind of what I'm thinking anyway. Jose Zhao, my brother. Yeah, balance is the key word. Jose, you're in charge of the music this weekend. What song do you play when the wires run out? I'm not too sure, my man. But anyway, yeah. I'll probably do the Many Men, the old G Unit, Many Men, the old Donald Trump. Wish death upon me. That's what I'm thinking anyway. TMM will be 30 next year to build for future. Maybe Mets gets. You could argue that. But again, is Metcalf ready to? We haven't seen it. We need to see a full season of him. Like I said, whoever they back him to the hilt, get the right combos, everything. Yeah, Luke Hansen and see those guys. Luke Hansen, Ben Farr. They're not there yet. You know, they're probably a year or two away. And if they might not be even there yet. You know what I mean? So that's my thought process around it. Ben Farr, you really confident that he would come up and do a job? I don't think so. So it will be TMM, CHT, Metcalf. And Webby, if you remember, guys, the Webby has always said that CHT is a half in his eyes. If remember when we recruited CHT, and even the comments since then has been he's a half. But he's enjoyed using him as utility, but he sees him as a half. So whether that's 5'8", could be Metcalf and CHT as your 5'8s. And maybe TMM doesn't fit the mold. Or it could be TMM, CHT still. We just don't know. Jose, which current Warriors player do you think you have a chance at beating in an arm wrestle? Far out. Probably Ben Farr. I'm trying to think of who's the smallest guy in the maybe one of the Harold Mets. Are we allowed to use guys that are not in the Warriors top grade? Yeah. I'm pretty weak these days, boys. I've got to be honest with you, but probably one of the skinnier boys. Bunty and Ali back in Cup have present opportunities. Yep, that's a good point. Okay. Yeah, this is a good one, Jacko. Brown and Moses. Yeah, that's a good balancing act right there. That's what I'm saying. If you can pick whoever the right one is, I mean, I don't really know. We need to see TM and Metcalf. That might be awesome, but we haven't seen it. Then again, Sean might resign. You might just go back to SJ and Metcalf again. But again, just comes back to combinations. They have to work. Yeah, I mean, like I said, yeah, it just comes back to that. Just talk to Chris's comment here. Well, guys, I'll go up to an hour 30, so another 13 minutes. Appreciate all the support. Loving just talking with you guys. I know a lot of the shows that I do, it's more like, I have another guest and we talk, but it's great to get to everyone's thoughts and appreciate it. Hit that like too. 50 of you guys in here, just quickly hit that like button. Let's get up to 50 minimum. But appreciate your time. Of course, it will be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks if we do end up bailing out. How will Webby keep the team up, and will he play some of the Cup boys for next year? Will RTS move to the wing? Yeah, that's where again I go into this idea. Like I'm as committed as far as if we lose the Raiders game. I know that's probably pretty sad, but I'm just saying. I just think if it's not there for that Raiders game, if we aren't up for it, I find it hard that we'll carry on. And so my view is that after that Raiders game, and it's already started to happen. Look, Tohu and SJ, as much as I think they're probably fully injured, I think they called it and said, "You guys can rest up. We're gonna move forward. Well, not move forward. We're at least gonna let you guys get some actual proper rest now, and we're gonna work with these other guys." Now, if that happens again, I think as well, we lose to the Raiders this Friday. I'm pretty content to just say, "Hey, let's get some of these young guys up, man. Let's get them some minutes." If Ali's looking good, Leotoa, I'm putting Leotoa in the right center. I'll push Roger to the wing. Now, again, you've signed Roger for 3 years. If you're telling me that Montoya's off contract or Dallin, one of those two, if you're not committed, if Montoya's not committed to re-signing, then you're probably looking at RTS as one of your wingers, right? I'll go back to my point, though. I don't think RTS is at the level that we need moving forward. But if that is the case, put him on the wing. And if you end up releasing Montoya, then it is what it is. But like I said, bring in a Leotoa, blood him in, get him some minutes. Then you move. Yeah, I think you like the fact that they moved Roger from left center to begin with is almost an exception of saying that it hasn't worked. But I differ. I think that he's done okay as a defensively as a center and is getting better. But the fact that he's been moved around a lot says a lot. So if they got to settle on a wing, put him on a wing because you've signed him for another 2 years. But then yeah, you probably want to. I do think you want to bring the Cup boys up, and the ones that you're pretty adamant on. Sifakula, Mayu. Mayu's just come back from injury, but Sifakula for me. Leka's definitely one I want in there. And just see what they got, man. Like I said, Leka, he just bursted onto the scene. Like I said, the big evaluation. If you pop on my TV screen, you're doing something. You got something. Leotoa's been good like that. Leka's been good like that. Mayu's been okay for me. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Do you think Leka could be a future X Factor center for us? I don't know if he's a center, but from all reports of what I've heard, and I mean, guys, I don't watch much Cup, but I appreciate the opinions of Ash and others that he is he's a left back rower. So I would ideally keep him where he's best and most comfortable. If that's a left edge back rower, I'd keep him there. But you got to remember as well that a lot of these guys, they have Webby's don't argue. Like, no, what do you call them? He loves guys that work hard. The work rate has to be first and foremost. You have to have a high work rate um, to be able to work in Webby's culture and system. Now, the guys that have come through, I think, have shown that, but the likes of Leatoa and that, yes, they have talent, but they do have times when they're young, they have mental lapses, but they need that opportunity. But they got to be able to do all the little things. The 1%ers are what gets you consistent game time with Webby. But the Lekkers Alasemas are just that X factor that you just need them in the side. Same with Leatoa. I think he'd be the one of our best center. He'll be the X factor center that we're looking for. So those guys will get the opportunities. But hopefully we'll see how that goes. But I don't think he's a center, to be honest. Yeah. Just quickly looking at Joe, you might be right, man. It could work. Could actually work with him playing again. Super villain. Agree. Metcalf got speed to burn, can be a great support player. Tyrion was one of the best. Given the extended contract, just need to give him time. Yeah, and I think again, the club I think has kind of laid out a path for SJ to retire by signing Metcalf long term. Well, for 3 years. And then we just have to accept that that's the path they've taken if SJ retires. I think the more clarity we get on SJ, the quicker, the better. The fact that it's stalled and he's waiting, I'm interested to see how that gets done. But yeah, I think we're kind of in that situation. Jet Cleary will fast. Jet Cleary, will they fast track him? Has Jet even played yet? Is he coming next year? We'll have to wait and see. Have to wait and see. Okay, guys, just see. Early prediction, score prediction. Yeah, this one, I'm going to say 1 to 12, 26 to 18. I actually can see that scoreline there, strictly was. I actually wouldn't mind that scoreline, to be honest. Again, I think what I said is we can't afford to get ourselves in these tight games. I think the best we can do is win a game by 8 points, or or 10 or 12 points. We need to have dominant performances at this stage of the season. So for me, whatever I see from this Raiders game, and I wait to see the team list and get a feel for it. But for me, if I'm picking a win, it's definitely an 8-point game. I don't see us winning a tight one. And based off of where those boys are at, CHT and Tamaire, with their the ICM games, I think it goes towards the home team in most situations. So we need to be able to, I think it's don't go to like a boxing thing, don't go to a decision because they'll usually give it to the home team. I think we need to perform dominantly and get an 8 to 10 point win to make sure that feels more solid to me. So I don't in a tight one again, I feel as though we will lose. Just being honest. Will we ever see the big three on the big screen in the same stream? Big Josh and Ash, we probably will. But my man Josh, he's a busy man, and Ash, Ash is doing amazing work as well. So, but we will definitely try. We'll definitely try this before the end of the season. Reckon Tane reminds you a bit of Kevin Luck, small body but safe under the high ball. That's a great shout, Strictly. Of course, Kevy was, and Kevy's man, he was great too. Tane, I think, yes, he's got a lot of Kevy in him. I think Tane's, I like that comparison actually. When's Rocco back? I have no idea, guys. I think it might be around 22, 23. I have to check the Warriors website. Okay, let me just bring up. If we lose another game or two, appears to be sidelined out of 17, got a blooding in the next wave of forwards. Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right, guys. Hey, guys, I think I'll leave it there. Appreciate everyone. Again, I'm just grateful to have this time with you guys to hit the comments. I find it quite hard to hit the comments and while I'm talking with someone else, but it's good to hear everyone's vibe and feel. Again, I was being honest. I kind of had a negative vibe, like that we weren't going to make the 8 this year. I mean, I love the boys. I just got this weird feeling that it's like, but again, I'm excited and pumped. Like for me, this is it, man. You are who you are, but also like if you want to prove a point and make a point, you got 7 games right here to do something and get to a finals. So that's for me. But yeah, everyone, thank you guys. Enjoy good chatting with you guys. We might do this again sometime too. It's good just to get to the comments. But enjoy you guys. Rest of your guys' night. We'll hit again. All you can eat warriors will be on tomorrow night with me and Ash at 8 p.m. So come back then. We'll talk more. Stay blessed, stay safe, and we'll see you later. Peace.